Good morning. Today is Wednesday, October 23rd. I'm Lillian Govis, Director of Communications and Public Engagement for Buncombe County, and I have an important message for my neighbors in Swannanoa. The community care station, which has showers, bathrooms, laundry, and more, is operating in the Owen Pool parking lot. 7 to 7, go take advantage. But this means that the Waste Pro truck that normally is there on Wednesdays is actually going to be at Owen Middle School. So if you have bagged household trash that you want to take to that Waste Pro truck, head to Owen Middle School to be able to drop that off. Today, we'll be joined by Jana Friesen McCabe from the Blue Ridge Parkway, Asheville City Manager Deborah Campbell, Clay Chandler, Public Information Officer from the Water Resources Department, and Jess Foster to talk about debris collection in the city of Asheville. We do have some changes coming with our food and water distribution sites, so I will turn it over to County Manager Avril Pender to share those and other information.
Good morning. Like Lydian said, we do have changes coming to our food and water distribution sites. At the end of the day today, we will close the Fairview Elementary and Reynolds Middle distribution sites and move them to the Ingalls parking lot at 225 Charlotte Highway. That's the Ingalls directly below Reynolds High. The other food and water distribution sites will remain open. They are Skylanes Bowling Alley, Black Mountain Ingalls, Swannanoa Ingalls, Linwood Crump Shiloh Community Center, Pack Square Park, Buncombe County Sports Park. We know that these stations help, but buying food for your family is also critical. That's why I want to be sure you and your neighbors apply for Disaster Supplemental Nutrition Assistance, or DSNAP. This program is for households of low to moderate income, and the deadline is tomorrow. Please don't miss out on this. You can apply in person at Buncombe County Health and Human Services at 40 Cox Avenue in Asheville from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. If you're unable to go in person, you can fill out an authorization form and send an authorized person in your place. The form can be found at buncombecounty.org. The application process can also be started online by pre-registering at epass.nc.gov. and then call in the DSNAP call center at 844-453-1117. Again, to pre-register, go to epass.nc.gov and then call in the DSNAP call center at 844-453-1117. Buncombe County offices, like the Health Department at Cox Avenue, are open again today. But due to some very real safety concerns, most of our parks are closed. The only parks, we have two that are open, are Hominy Valley Park and North Buncombe Fields. Buncombe County libraries are open with the exception of 3 locations. That is Fairview Library, Oakley Library, and Swannanoa Library. Last night, the Buncombe County Board of Elections voted unanimously to approve the polling locations for Tuesday, Election Day, November the 5th. The storm destruction required the county to replace or transfer 17 of our 80 voting sites to other sites. It will take the Board of Election staff a few days to populate our online tool at buncombecounty.org/vote with all the new locations. And when ready, residents who are unaware of where to vote on Election Day can use the tool to find the name and address of the polling station. Again, that is buncombecounty.org/vote. It will take a few days for staff to get that uploaded, but once it is there, you can go to see where your name and address of your polling location will be. More than 38,000 voters have already taken advantage of our 10 early voting locations. Those locations are Black Mountain Library, East Asheville Library, Anka Candler Library, Fairview Library, South Buncombe Library, West Asheville Library, UNCA Health and Counseling Center, Weaverville Community Center, Dr. Wesley Grant Southside Center, and Leicester Community Center. You can vote every day between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Move into solid waste and debris collection. Tomorrow, Laceboro will run routes in Fairview. Our contractor, SDR, will be in the following fire districts this week collecting storm debris, and next week. This list is for this week and next week for storm debris. Barnersville, Swannanoa, Fairview, Garin Creek, Riceville, East Buncombe, and North Buncombe. Again, the locations where SDR will be running trucks for storm debris. So please make sure to bring your storm debris, if you're able, to your curb. That is Barnersville, Swannanoa, Fairview, Garin Creek, Riceville, East Buncombe, and North Buncombe. If you plan to demolish or remodel any building in Buncombe County, including residential, commercial, industrial, or public buildings, you must obtain a permit from the Asheville-Buncombe Air Quality Agency. You must also obtain a permit for any plans to remove any material containing asbestos. A free permit can be obtained online through the permit portal at buncombecounty.org/air. For questions, please contact Air Quality at 828-250-6777. That is 828-250-6777. Or you can go to airquality@buncombecounty.org. We have some news for our farmers. Farmers impacted by Helene can receive up to $3,000 for the Helene Recovery Grant from Empowering Mountain Food Systems. The grant covers necessary recovery supplies, such as generators, fencing, hoop house replacement or repair, and more. To be eligible, farms must have sustained damages from Helene and must be in one of the following counties: Buncombe, Burke, Cleveland, Haywood, Jackson, Madison, McDowell, Mitchell, the Qualla Boundary, Rutherford, Swain, Watauga, and Yancey. Again, this is $3,000 for farmers from Empowering Mountain Food Systems. The grants can be used for anything that you use during recovery supplies, such as generators, fencing, hoop house repair or replacement. And you can visit cefs.ncsu.edu. That website again is cefs.ncsu.edu. Volunteers. The Volunteer Reception Center is officially open Saturday from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. at 50 South French Broad Avenue. Locals looking for a volunteer opportunity are welcome to go to this location to be assigned to a need. A variety of skills are wanted, so there could be something for everyone. Like we shared yesterday, we can't absorb an influx of volunteers who aren't connected with organizations. So if you are looking to volunteer, going through the Volunteer Reception Center is 100% the right avenue for you to share your time and talents. Dan Leroy from United Way will provide more information on volunteering opportunities with us here tomorrow. Now I'd like to introduce Ms. Jana Friesen McCabe from Blue Ridge Parkway.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to present today at today's Buncombe County briefing. My name is Jana Friesen McCabe. I'm representing the National Park Service as a member of the Western Incident Management Team assigned to assist the Blue Ridge Parkway with recovery and stabilization efforts. I'm pleased to provide a brief Parkway update this morning. This is our first chance to be at the briefing, so I'll give a quick recap of where the park's been since the storm hit on September 27th and what we're anticipating in the coming weeks and in some cases, likely years. The initial response on the Parkway, much like other agencies and organizations, was to connect with staff. We are grateful there was no injury nor loss of life among park staff. However, Parkway employees, like many in the affected communities, are grappling with a wide array of impacts to home and family life. As you may know, the Blue Ridge Parkway runs for 469 miles from Shenandoah National Park in Virginia to the Great Smoky Mountains National Park entrance near Cherokee. Storm damage in Virginia was less than North Carolina, and we initiated a phased opening on October 11th with the first 200 miles of the Parkway running from mileposts 0 to 200 in Virginia now open. We anticipate a full Virginia opening of the Parkway to milepost 217 in the coming weeks. As of this morning, we opened the first section of the Blue Ridge Parkway in North Carolina since the storm. The section we were able to open is near Blowing Rock from milepost 285 to 305 at Grandfather Mountain. This section includes the much photographed Lynn Cove Viaduct, which I'm pleased to report did not sustain any damage from the storm. This section also includes Moses Cone Manor Estate, which received damage to its carriage barn and trails. The carriage barn is here behind me, along with many other popular Parkway destinations. While the road is now open, some facilities and services will be closed or otherwise unavailable right away. In the coming weeks, we are targeting additional critical transportation corridors to open, where there is primarily cleanup work. This is in an effort to support community needs where other local routes remain impacted. Crews are working very hard to safely clear a portion of the Asheville corridor of the Parkway, and we'll keep our partners here at the county informed when we have a reopening date to announce. As soon as the storm passed, Park Service crews began the work of debris removal and assessments along all 469 miles of the Parkway. Assessments in many locations are ongoing to determine the full extent of damage, including possible timelines and preliminary estimates for repairs. We do know that at least 30 slides occurred in various sections of the Parkway in North Carolina, and 10 of those are considered major and involve loss of the roadway itself. Initial assessments also discovered tens of thousands of trees across the roadway, smaller rock slides and mudslides covering the roadway, and destruction of the Linville Falls Visitor Center, with significant damage to other popular destinations like campgrounds and picnic areas. Here on the screen is just one of the slides. This one is at mile 306. Here is one of the more major ones. This is near Gooch Gap at milepost 336. This one is at leave milepost 345. And as I mentioned, slides covering the road. This one is at milepost 348. As you can see, the entire road was covered. At Farron Knob Tunnel, this is tunnel number 3.
Sorry to interrupt. I just want to make sure for folks watching online, we will make sure all of these photos get into the chat so you can see them. We're having a little bit of difficulty getting that presentation. So we're seeing it in the room, but not on the screen, but we're working to fix that.
My
Sorry to
apologies.
No,
That's
not,
okay.
Not your fault.
This slide is in milepost 401 near Farron Knob Tunnel number 3. And this one is also in milepost 401. This is just south of Bent Creek. For safety reasons, we ask that people be patient and respect all the remaining closures and National Park Service assessments and cleanup work continues. Many of the areas remain unsafe due to hidden hazards such as weakened portions of the roadway, snags, hazard trees, and unstable slopes. Unauthorized use also hinders work crews and slows us down. We are working to ensure that we can open the areas as soon as it is safe to do so. Updates are regularly posted on the Parkway's website and social media channels at Blue Ridge NPS, and we look forward to providing additional updates in the coming weeks. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we were able to get those photos up at the very end of your presentation. I know there are more photos coming from the City of Asheville, so we will be able to display those. Next, we will turn things over to City Manager Deborah Campbell.
Good morning. Again, my name is Deborah Campbell, and I serve as the City Manager of Asheville. As usual, I want to start by thanking everyone in the community for your continued support to help us recover from this devastating storm. We are now on day 28 of our emergency response and recovery effort. And as usual, our focus areas have not changed. We continue to focus on 4 major priority areas: addressing the basic needs of our community with a focus on our most vulnerable populations, restoring water service, community safety and security, and debris collection. Today, our City of Asheville update will include a few announcements from me about our water, meals, and access to other community resources, including some action that Council took last night to provide funding for residential rental assistance and business grant opportunities. We'll also update on some of the facilities that will be reopened to the public. I will also be joined by Jess Foster, our Sanitation Division Manager, for a further update on our debris removal efforts. We had a number of people that attended our council meeting last night who raised some issues and concerns. I'm hoping that we can clarify and respond to some of those questions and concerns with Jess's update and presentation. We will, however, start with an update from Clay Chandler, our Public Information Officer with our Water Resources Department on our water restoration efforts. Clay.
Thank you, Mrs. Campbell. And thank you. All right. So if you are a regular visitor to the Water Services Recovery page at asheville.nc.gov/Helene, and if you're not, you should be. You will notice that as of a couple of hours ago, we have added a couple of things to do with our water testing and the plan that we have implemented since just after Hurricane Helene. And so I'm going to run through everything that's included with that. That's the home page right there of the Water Service Recovery page. And at the very top where it says Helene Recovery Water Quality, I'm just going to read what it says. Water Resources Lab staff conduct daily testing at the source and throughout the distribution system for total coliform, E. coli, and chlorine. To ensure the safety of our customers' water resources, with guidance from the EPA and North Carolina DEQ, developed and implemented a sampling plan specific to recovering from Helene. Most sample stations throughout our system are taps that go right into the water lines. All told, there are 184 sampling stations throughout the distribution system. On average, under normal conditions, 8 to 10 stations per day are tested. Since Helene, we have tested an average of 35 stations per day, and we hope to get that up to 40. Water Resources in-house testing is slightly more accurate when the water is clear. And again, the water at North Fork, as everybody knows by now, is extremely turbid. And so as a result of that, we are sending samples to a third-party lab, and the turnaround time on those results is about 7 to 10 days. I know that sounds like a lot, but that's pretty much industry standard. Due to current conditions created by Helene, staff are currently testing for aluminum, iron, and manganese daily. Under normal conditions, weekly tests for aluminum, iron, and manganese are done at the source and on finished water from a faucet in our lab. Typically, results that indicate elevated levels of iron, manganese, and aluminum are extremely rare under normal conditions. To protect human health, federal government has set secondary maximum contaminant limits, or MCLs, in drinking water. We have a list of the MCLs for aluminum, for example, which is 0.2 parts per million, iron, 0.3 parts per million, manganese, 0.05, chlorine, 4 parts per million, which is what we normally treat at, 4 parts per million. But after Helene, both EPA and North Carolina DEQ allowed us to chlorinate initially at 8 parts per million, since that was because that was the only thing that we could add to the water. Remember, we're not using our normal treatment and filtration systems. We're sending water straight out of the lake and hyperchlorinating it. Since then, however, we have dropped down to 6 parts per million. That's a very good sign, because that means as we test for chlorine throughout the distribution system, chlorine levels are remaining high because there are very few pathogens in the distribution system that's eating it up. So if chlorine remains high throughout the distribution system, that's a very positive sign. Total coliform, we're allowed no more than 5 positive tests in a month. We have had 0 since Helene. E. coli, we are not allowed a single positive hit for E. coli, because that would automatically trigger a boil water notice. And I want to be clear, that is not the reason we issue the boil water notice that we're under now. We issue that boil water notice because of the sediment that's in the water. If you've used the water or run it anywhere in your home or business, you've noticed that it's cloudy, it's brown in some places. That is why we are under this current boil water notice, not an E. coli positive hit. It's also important to note that we have had no detections of E. coli since Helene. A little context on the maximum contaminant limits. These limits are recommendations for water aesthetics. Obviously, clear water is more appealing, cloudy water is not. Federal and state regulators do not enforce them. For example, the levels of iron and manganese in the unfiltered water that we've sent through our distribution system have slightly exceeded the MCLs, and our regulators are completely aware of that. They're at North Fork every day. They're in City Hall, in our offices every day. The practical effect of that being those with medical conditions who might be susceptible to increased levels of aluminum, iron, and manganese over a long period of time should simply consult with their doctor. The impacts on water, things like aluminum, iron, and manganese have. Aluminum produces a cloudy look to the water. I know everyone has noticed that. Iron is rusty colored and causes a metallic taste in the water and produces reddish brown staining on toilets and other appliances. Manganese is black to brown in color, causes a metallic taste in the water, and produces yellow staining on toilets and other appliances. It is also very important to note that the in-reservoir treatment process that we concluded last week and that we will restart next week, it will actually work to reduce levels of iron and manganese in the water. Also important to add that we have not exceeded the MCL as far as aluminum yet. We know that level is going to go up next week when we start the second round of the in-reservoir treatment process. And so that's why we're rolling out these real-time test results today. All right, let me click on the sampling plan. All right, so if you're on the website and you click on the link at the top that takes you to our sampling plan, The North Fork sampling plan for raw water and distribution system, again, developed and implemented after Hurricane Helene in consultation with our regulators. To repeat, daily, we test for total coliform, E. coli, and chlorine. Nitrate, we test for that weekly. The last test was done last week. We expect to have the results this week. Starting this week, source water sampling for nitrate will be done once a week, usually on Mondays or Tuesdays. That weekly testing will continue until the normal treatment process is restored. Local lab environmental testing solutions and is analyzing those results, and there's generally a 2 to 3 business day turnaround on that. Cryptosporidium sampling kits have arrived. We generally test for that, I think, under normal conditions on monthly, maybe quarterly. I'm not 100% clear, but we will start testing for that this week. Those results will be sent to a lab in Indiana who will perform the analysis, and their turnaround for the results for those industry standard 7 to 10 business days. To repeat, raw water testing at the source at North Fork and throughout the distribution system for total coliform, E. coli, chlorine, pH, and turbidity are performed every single day by our lab staff. Manganese will be monitored once per day until we resume normal treatment processes at North Fork. Usually that's a weekly test along with aluminum and iron. But since we're under some pretty extraordinary circumstances, we have decided to go ahead and test daily for aluminum, iron, and manganese because we know those can be elements of concern. We have also, with schools starting back soon, we've tested for lead at every school in the city and the county, with the exception of every elementary school in the city, in the county, with the exception of Hall Fletcher, who was in the process of switching their water service from the city to a well. There's a couple of stages of the lead testing process. Again, I mentioned we've tested every elementary school in the city and county with the exception of Hall Fletcher. Stage 1 has been completed. We've sent those samples off for analysis. There will be a stage 2 where we will go back again to every elementary school in the city and county, with the exception of Hall Fletcher, and test for lead again. As of October the 23rd, 21 of our 25 samples have been collected. We'll wrap that up this week. Cameron Testing in Sanford, North Carolina is handling our lead analysis, and I've already received some of our samples. They will get the rest before the end of this week. And again, industry standard, we expect 7 to 10 business days turnaround on the results. So I want to click through. So I'm going to click on distribution sample results here, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing because it's a very, very big spreadsheet. And if you're like me, spreadsheets make your eyes cross. But it starts on October 3rd, which was about a week before we restarted production at North Fork, and goes all the way till today. And that will be updated in real time. Our lab techs have access to this. This is how they track the results. And so as soon as they update with new information, it will be available on the spreadsheet that lives at the top of our website now. Close that out. Now we'll go to the water sampling for the raw water at North Fork, meaning that is water right out of the reservoir. You have results for obviously E. coli, turbidity, pH, coliform, manganese, iron, aluminum. A lot of that testing didn't start until we started actually pushing water through the system. And again, we have not exceeded the MCL for aluminum. We have slightly exceeded the MCL for iron and manganese. And the boil water notice FAQ that's lived at the top of our website for a few weeks now. After the boil water FAQ portion, we added, if I can get to it, there it is, water testing frequently asked questions. And it goes through every question imaginable for aluminum, manganese, and at the very bottom, lead. It is a very lengthy document. I encourage everybody to read it. I know it's boring and it's lengthy and nobody has time for this to read the whole thing, but it is very, very important. There is very good information in there. So that pretty much concludes my presentation for today. This is going to be, again, this is a living part of our website, so it will change as results come in and dates and deadlines pass and things like that. But I very much encourage you to make that a regular stop on your morning websites routine. I think it will be very helpful. I know you'll have questions after, but for now, I'm going to turn it over back to Mrs. Campbell.
Thank you, Clay. So I'm going to give a quick update on the water distribution. Although we are making tremendous progress in restoring city services, it's important to note the distribution of drinking water and meals ready to eat, our MREs, still remains critical. Water distribution sites and community care stations remain in operation. We are still maintaining distribution sites, and I'm going to go through these quickly because I believe the county manager mentioned some of these at Pack Square Park, Skylands Bowling, Glenwood Crump Shallow Community Center, but this location only has bottled water and MREs, but no buck water. And we have 2 community care stations and distribution sites that are co-located at 980 Brevard Road in the at-home store parking lot and 85 Tunnel Road in the Innsbrook Mall parking lot. These sites will continue to distribute potable water in bottles as well as bulk non-potable water. And those are at the community care stations and the distribution sites. As of today, we have distributed 1.26 million bottles of water. Helene grant funding update. In the aftermath of Tropical Storm Helene, the city and its partners are advocating to the state and to the federal government on resources that we need for the community's long-term recovery. In advance of those resources being made available, the City of Asheville has identified existing resources that can be used as grants to support home repair, business restabilization, and rental assistance grants. At last night's City Council meeting, nearly $4 million in existing city resources was approved to provide grants to businesses and residents that have been impacted by Helene. Our next step in activating these resources involves the identification of experienced nonprofit partner organizations to manage the distribution of these community grants. And I want to say that again, community grants. We hope to have nonprofit partners to administer these programs selected within the next 2 weeks, and we'll share additional details on grant programming as those partnerships are finalized. However, we know these local resources are not going to meet the magnitude of needs for our residents and business owners. We strongly encourage residents to apply for individual assistance funding through FEMA and for businesses and individuals to pursue resources through the Small Business Administration. Our city offices are reopening. As of this morning, city offices are open to the public. However, this does not include all city recreation facilities, such as recreation centers and those managed by our Community and Regional Entertainment Facilities Department. For more information about city recreation centers and facilities managed by those departments, please visit the city's website at asheville.nc.gov. Also, as I announced Monday, there are numerous activities being scheduled this weekend by our Parks and Recreation Department. And just as a reminder, the Haunted Parking Lot on the Hill Trunk or Treat event will take place this Saturday, October the 26th from 4 to 6 p.m. at Stevens Lee Community Center on 30 George Washington Carver Avenue. The Boo Bash block party will take place Sunday, October 27th from 2 to 4 p.m. at Tanger Outlets on 800 Brevard Road. I'm also happy to share that the after-school program, as I stated on Monday, run by our Parks and Recreation Department, will return from 3 to 6 p.m. Monday, October the 28th. This programming is for students who were previously enrolled in our after-school programming. And again, for more information about these events and additional programming, please visit asheville.nc.gov/parks. Now, storm debris management. There is and continues to be a sense of urgency about debris removal. The longer storm debris remains in our neighborhoods and business areas in the form that it is now, the longer we are living with fire and safety hazards. We want our neighborhoods to be safe, and we want our businesses to be open as soon as possible. I'm going to now turn it over to Sanitation Division Manager Jess Foster to share some information about the temporary debris sites. Again, as I noted, there were lots of questions that were asked of us and comments that were stated at the City Council meeting, and we hope that this information will clarify some of the questions and concerns that were expressed. Jess?
Thank you. Again, Jess Foster, City of Asheville Public Works Sanitation Division Manager. As has been shared in previous briefings, there are 3 temporary debris management sites that have been permitted and activated. Inca Commerce Park, 65 Ford Street, and the front 9 of the municipal golf course. The Inca Commerce Park site is the only site that is currently receiving debris. As you can see, there's a slide here that shows the Inca Commerce Park site. The site is in a more industrial location and is over half a mile from any schools. "65 Ford Street, there is construction and demolition debris and vegetative debris at that site currently. Over the next 2 weeks, the construction and demolition debris will be compacted and removed to a final disposal facility. The vegetative debris will remain at this site at this time. No material has been brought to the golf course at this time. Numerous additional permit applications have been submitted to North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality, NCDEQ, including for sites within the River Arts District corridor to enable our contractors to manage that debris within that area. We've heard there's some questions about zoning of the temporary sites that we have identified. The City of Asheville Unified Development Ordinance, or UDO, allows for the placement of any temporary uses that the city manager deems necessary or desirable in conjunction with the management of the emergency. This is outlined specifically in the temporary uses section of the UDO, Chapter 7, Section 5.3K. These decisions are not easy, and every decision will be made with community safety in mind. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about what has happened to date. We have secured a contractor, SDR, who has extensive experience in natural disaster debris removal. We have secured an additional contractor, Debris Tech, to monitor the debris removal process for FEMA compliance. Before the event, city staff analyzed potential temporary sites that could be quickly activated, although at that time, we weren't expecting the amount of debris that we currently have. City-owned property was able to be mobilized as quickly as possible due to city ownership, adequate space, access, and topography. Activation of those sites enabled us to begin removing debris from around critical infrastructure like hospitals and emergency services facilities. At the same time, inquiries and negotiations for privately owned property were underway. Finding adequate temporary debris sites is challenging. There are state regulations that limit where these sites can be staged, including required distances from waterways, residences, wells, and roads. There's got to be enough space to stage and process, separate the debris so that it can be monitored, sorted, reduced in size, and hauled away to a permanent site outside of the city. We are looking for areas across the city so that contractors can efficiently work to remove debris from city streets and minimize their driving distance. It's important to understand that the more sites that we have around the city, the quicker and more safely we can remove this debris from our community. I'd like to talk a little bit about accountability and monitoring of these sites. Debris collection contractors can only collect debris that meets regulatory requirements. That does not include hazardous waste. They cannot collect hazardous waste. If debris collection contractors note hazardous waste when they're out collecting debris, they will notify appropriate staff and state agencies to contain and mitigate that waste and will not bring it to a debris management site. Our debris monitors follow the collection trucks in the field to make sure there's compliance with FEMA regulations. Our debris sites are marked by surveyors to identify the required boundaries and setbacks. The sites are monitored several times a week by city staff to ensure operations are remaining within our DEQ permit guidelines. Sites will also be monitored for safety by Asheville Fire Department staff and by NCDEQ inspectors to ensure compliance with permit requirements. Random soil and water samples will also be collected at sites for analysis. While dust is typically not a significant issue at sites, the dust control measures will be put in place, including wetting down of materials as needed. So what happens at these temporary sites? First, as I mentioned, no toxic hazardous waste will be brought to temporary sites. That type of waste goes through a different process and is managed and disposed of by the Asheville Fire Department Hazmat Response Team or by state hazmat contractors. Debris that will be collected and brought to temporary sites are construction and demolition materials and bulky materials like wood, windows, furniture, carpet, electronics like TVs, household appliances, refrigerators, washer dryers, vegetative and organic materials, which do not need to be cut down to size, and household hazardous waste, such as household cleaners, pesticides, paint, and batteries. These materials are sorted and processed on site, and typically within 2 weeks, material that was brought to the site is on its way out already to a permanent disposal site. So there's a constant flow through of materials. It comes in, it's separated into the different types of waste if it wasn't already at the curb. It's reduced in size. Vegetation will be ground up. Our construction and demolition debris will be compacted, not ground up. Once it's reduced in size, then it is shipped out to a permanent disposal facility. There have been some questions about how the household hazardous waste will be managed. These materials are collected separately and will be placed in a containment system so that they cannot leach into soil at the temporary sites. They're then sealed and hauled off to a permanent disposal location. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about the collection and sorting process. As we said before, the initial assessment shows up to 3 million cubic yards of storm debris in the city alone, and that is the equivalent of roughly 140 football fields stacked 10 feet high. Our city contractors are collecting storm debris around the city 7 days a week during daylight hours. In order to expedite the collection process, we're asking the community to sort their debris near the curb into the following categories: construction and demolition and bulky items, appliances, electronics, vegetative debris, and household hazardous waste. Please do not block the roadway with your debris or place debris on top of utilities or meters. We need to keep our roadways clear for emergency access. And when the claw is out there picking up debris, we don't want to ruin any city infrastructure. You do not have to get all your storm debris to the curb out at once. Contractors will be making multiple passes to collect debris. Additionally, mud and sediment with no signs of contamination can be placed at the curb for proper disposal. Small amounts of household mud that may have been exposed to household chemicals, like your cleaning chemicals, if it's a small amount, it can be contained and taken to a landfill. Mud or sediment from businesses and commercial sites with contamination should be placed in a container until proper disposal is decided in coordination with the Division of Waste Management Inactive Hazardous Sites Branch. That is a state agency. Additional info on debris sorting and collection can be found at the city's Helene Response and Recovery website, asheville.nc.gov/Helene. Thank you.
So in closing, and I know that this was a longer presentation than normal, but we thought this information was very vital for us to get out to the community. So in closing, and you heard the need for additional sites, if you have or know of properties that could support this effort, we want to connect with you. Please send an email to jointinformationcenter@asheville.nc.gov, and we will have someone contact you. Again, that's jointinformationcenter@asheville.nc.gov. If you are aware of a site, which generally we need about 4 to 6 acres. In closing, and as usual, I'd like to extend my continued thanks to the mayor and city council, all of our dedicated City of Asheville employees, our other partners in the county, state, and federal government, as well as our private and nonprofit partners who are working tirelessly in our recovery efforts. Thank you. I'll turn it back over to you, Lily.
Thank you so much. We will move to questions in just one moment. I had 3 things that I wanted to share before we start. I saw a question in the Facebook chat. Can I vote on the weekend? It's hard for me to get there during the week. Yes, absolutely. You can vote on Saturday and Sunday this weekend at any one of those 10 early voting locations. You can also look and see what the wait times are at those locations at buncombecounty.org/vote. Spectrum provided an update, 92% restoration for their customers. They have about 7,200 offline in Buncombe County. Based on current progress, restoration is expected on by October 26th for those remaining customers. So they are making progress on their end. And finally, just want to remind everyone, please apply for disaster assistance from the storm at disasterassistance.gov. We have our disaster recovery center. Please apply. Even if you're not sure the extent of your damage, or if you have damage, please go ahead and register so that you will be in that system. And at this point, we will move to questions from the media who have joined us from a separate Zoom link.
Hey, Lillian, it's Laura Lee at Blue Ridge Public Radio. A couple of quick clarifications. On the DSNAP applications, we're getting reports that people have like pre-registered, and then when they call in to do the interview, they get a recorded message saying call back later. Is there any information that you've gotten from the state about handling that issue?
Yeah, we've been working with the state to try to navigate around the calls. They have such a high influx of calls that they are experiencing some dropping of calls and that sort of thing. But they are working on that on their end, and we are pursuing additional avenues on our end to try to make sure that everyone gets the opportunity to apply for that DSNAP. So I know that we have a big influx of people right now, and we'll share more information on solutions as they become available.
Do you anticipate an extension of that deadline given the delays here?
That is certainly not off the table, and we're looking into that option as well. So as soon as we hear, we will let you know.
Great. And then you said 92% statewide, 92%, I'm sorry, restored by Spectrum. Is that statewide or is that local?
That's Buncombe County. 92% in Buncombe County with 7,200 offline in Buncombe County. I think their restoration numbers overall are much higher.
And then I just have a question or two, and I'm sure everybody else does for Clay.
Here he comes.
Hi, Clay.
morning.
I'm gonna read all the homework that you gave us, but in the interim, you said 7 to 10 days for testing, but then it sounded like some of this testing is immediate. Can you just clarify how the testing is working? You said some of it's going to a third party. I'm confused about that piece.
So depending on what you're testing for, E. coli, coliform, chlorine, that's pretty easy and pretty much instantaneous. But if you're testing for things like lead, aluminum, iron, manganese, and I don't know exactly what the process is. I know it's much more involved and requires, in some cases, technology that we don't have in-house at Water Resources. And so when you're talking about shipping time there and back to, for example, we have labs in Indiana working for us, others in North Carolina that are not, some in Asheville, some aren't. Industry standard comes out to be between 7 and 10 days.
So when we're looking at these results on the first list of things you mentioned, that would be immediate, but these other results that we're getting, you're saying about a week delay?
That's generally correct. Now, I know I mentioned that we do have at Water Resources, we do have in-house capability to test for aluminum, iron, and manganese. The issue is the testing technology that we have is generally a little bit more accurate when the water is clear. Obviously, the water is not clear. And let me clarify, when the water is not clear and we're testing turbid water for aluminum, iron, and manganese, our tests sort of skew higher than what the level normally is. And so to be as precise as possible, test for those three elements, we're sending to an outside lab.
So those results that we're seeing at present on the site are, you said real time, like what you all are getting and in-house?
Yes, well, either in-house or from our third-party labs. Those will be updated, and as soon as our lab staff update them, it will be reflected on the spreadsheets. That's what I meant by real time.
Okay. And so are there any to take to an out-of-state or out-of-area partner in-house as we go forward?
Can you repeat the question? I'm not sure I understand it.
Sorry, are there any plans or funding to get sites set up in-house that would do what the out-of-house people are doing?
Not at the moment, no.
Clay, from the chat, can you remind us what is the turbidity threshold that would allow us to push that through a normal treatment?
So that's a really good question. It's going to require a little bit of context. Normally, for example, right before Helene, the turbidity level of the water that we were treating and pushing through our distribution system was less than 1. Currently, I checked about 10 minutes ago, it's at 26. And again, that scale works like a Richter scale, so it's logarithmic. 2 is exponentially greater than 1. The target that we have now is 1.5 NTUs, which, while it's a little bit higher than what we normally treat, is still much lower than if you were to average water systems across the United States. It's still much lower than the turbidity that they're dealing with. And I know I mentioned yesterday that so far we have run into a capacity barrier with some alternative treatment methods. That does not mean that we have given up on that. The Army Corps of Engineers is putting pencil back to paper to see if they can come up with some solutions that can meet that 20 million gallon per day capacity that we have to meet. And so if I sort of implied that part of it had been given up on, that is absolutely not the case. Water Resources, our partners at EPA, DEQ, and the Army Corps of Engineers are working literally around the clock to come up with something.
We had another question asking about, do these results reflect any Mills River treatment plant?
Clay, John Boyle from.
Hang on, John, we got a question from the chat. Let me answer it and then I'll get to you.
Yeah, just folks wanting to know about data, water quality data from Mills River Service.
Has not been added yet. Will be added later this week.
Clay, I just wanted to ask, what does the turbidity stand at today? Do you know?
We're about 26 as of about 20 minutes ago.
And any update on the curtain installation?
Curtains are still scheduled to arrive either late weekend, early next week. And based on the current timeline we have right now, we think the second round of treatment, in reservoir treatment, will start Tuesday of next week.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hi, Clay. It's Victoria from the Watchdog. I'm just curious as to what's considered a positive test. Looking at the data for North Fork, there are some numbers, MPN here under coliform. I was just wondering, if you can talk a little bit about what these numbers mean and how they relate to a positive test.
Sure. So without looking at the numbers, what you're looking at now is raw water sampling, which means water that has not been chlorinated yet. And because the reservoir at North Fork sits in the middle of a wilderness, things like E. coli and coliform, which are derived from human and animal waste, are going to be present in the raw water. But the results out in the distribution system, once we've run that water through the hyperchlorination process, no positive hits since then. I'm sorry, I should have explained that during my presentation. That's a really good question.
No worries. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Any additional questions in the chat, Angelica? Anyone joining on the Zoom who has a question? I'm missing Charles today.
Lillian, I'll try to fill in for Charles.
Thank you.
No, I just had I think it was on my end, but when the Blue Ridge Parkway spokesperson was speaking, I heard her say there were 30 slides on the parkway and then something about 10, but I couldn't tell what she said after that. Could she clarify that for me?
Yep, she's right here.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. We have at least 30 slides on the parkway. 10 of them are considered catastrophic with a partial or complete loss of the roadway.
And did you say what? I know it was a long time on getting some of this repaired. What's the estimates on getting those filled back in?
We don't have estimates on those right now. We're still working on evaluating the impacts. In some of those cases, we are probably looking at years, but we really can't give any sort of timeline right now.
Thank you.
And for spelling purposes, that's JANAFRIESEN capital CABE.
Lillian, it's Laura again. Yeah, we had a question yesterday about short-term rentals and incentivizing Airbnb or VRBO owners to rent to displaced people. Is there any update on that?
Yeah, we don't have, obviously we don't have any regulatory authority on Airbnb or VRBO or short-term rentals in the county. And so there is nothing that I can report on in that space. Last chance for additional questions. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And John, if you need to go back and watch the presentation from the Park Service, this is live on Facebook and you can watch it anytime. If our friends from the Fire Department of New York are listening as they starting their drive home, those members of the incident management team who've been embedded with us for the last several weeks, we want to wish them safe travels, making that journey back to New York. And we couldn't be more grateful for the help and support that they provided throughout our community since this disaster struck. Reminder that the town of Black Mountain, Biltmore Forest, still need to boil that water before you consume it. We will be joined back here again tomorrow by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Buncombe County Elections Director Corrine Duncan, and also Pisgah Legal Services. And as County Manager Pender shared, Dan Leroy with United Way of Asheville and Buncombe County. So we will look forward to seeing y'all on Thursday, tomorrow's Thursday, at 11 a.m. right back here. Thank you.